Hi, I'm Erica from AccuQuilt, and I'm here with Aditya Sitar and her wonderful Serendipity Cube. So Aditya, you've already shown us how to use our flower shapes die and our flower accents die. Make some gorgeous flowers, but I think I need something to put my flowers in now.
And I have something perfect for you. One of my favorite shapes in the cube is this basket. Oh, girls, you are gonna love it. You're gonna make scrappy basket, you're gonna make rainbow basket, you're gonna put flowers in it. Actually, it could work great for Easter.
Great, oh perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
So this basket die works so well with 6-inch squares, and you can make a 1 block to practice. If you're making 1 block, you're gonna need a background fabric and you're gonna need a 6-inch squares to cut the basket from, or you can go ahead and have a background and a basket and a little accent flowers, or you can go ahead, if you know how to make a cut one, you can make a dozens and dozens. In this case, we're gonna make 20 baskets for this wonderful quilt that we have on the table.
So cute.
Isn't that super cute? I chose a rainbow arrangements for this one, shading from the pinks through yellows, through greens and blues, to a touch of brown. And I went to my stash of 6-inch squares. Remember, I ask you every time you buy fabric, modern,
Great
traditional,
idea.
any fabrics you buy, cut 6-inch squares, because your 6-inch squares gonna go great with your dies in your cube. And in this case, I didn't have to pre-cut my 6-inch squares. I went to my stash, I pulled up 20 pieces, and those 20 pieces will give me 20 baskets for this quilt. There is one basket in the quilt that have a little accent flowers. And remember, when we use our flower shapes and our accent to the flowers, I cut all the time. So I'm using some leftovers from another block that I'm gonna place it in that. Okay, so first step, choosing your fusible webbing. And in this case, I'm using lightweight heat and bound. You can use lightweight, feather light heat and bound. They both work great. And all that I'm going to do is fuse it to the wrong side of a batik. And you probably wonder, where's the right and the wrong of a batik?
I've never known.
Yeah, I have to tell you, many times when batiks are made, they're just have a color on it. But sometimes when you have a design on it, like this one, that design was put on with a stamp and a wax was used on. So when the stamp is placed on, one side of the batik has a little bit leftover of the wax, and I consider this the wrong side of the batik because the color is not as bright, as vibrant. And what I like to do is I take a corner, I pull it towards me, and I compare which side is more beautiful and colorful, and that side I use as my right side.
Perfect.
Now, quickly take a fusible webbing, press it, and in this case, instead of taking our beautiful fabric and running through the die with the paper on it, I'm gonna go ahead and do what I like to do. Take the paper away gently. The fusible webbing is stuck right to it. Erica, would you like to try one?
I'd love to.
Perfect. And I'm gonna prepare our die.
This is a great idea. This is a great time saving.
Isn't it? And just want to mention to you, notice it again, this design is symmetrical. So it does not matter if you place your fabric this way or this way, your design will not be reversed. It will always be the same. So no problem there. And just remember, when you're stacking your fabric, always stack them right side up. So don't place your fabric fusible webbing to fusible webbing, because it's going to be very hard to pull them apart. If you're going to do that, you have to keep the paper on. So let's prevent that. I'm going to stack 2 of those. And you can do it as many as 4 layers of fabric.
Which is a great time saver.
We're going to use our mat that it's included in our Serendipity Cube. I love that little mat.
You like using the Go Baby too.
I love it. I love using all the Go's, but the Go Baby really does travel with me, and it's easy to take it with me. And you know, sometimes I bring it to my classroom and let other girls use it.
Good.
So Go Baby shares. And now we have baskets cut. This basket right here, I cut it with the paper on just to show you.
Okay.
Look at, then I would have to remove the paper from this one. And then go ahead and remove the paper from this one.
As well.
But here, by removing the paper once, I've saved so much time because all that I have to do is just lay my blocks down, and I can quickly make multiple blocks. Here's your wonderful handle, Erica, and I'm gonna keep my handle for my next block. Isn't it nice?
It is.
I like you when you're placing your basket, what I like to do is I measure from the bottom an inch, I crease it gently. That gives me a guideline where the basket is standing, just like this.
Why that was there. Great.
Sometimes you can X the block and give you a center of it, but in this case I want my basket to stand really nice and even in a row. So I kept that 1 inch right there, and make sure that the edge of the handle goes underneath just about 1/8, just enough that you can hold it. Yes,
down.
And now you press it in place and you have a block just like this one, ready to apply. If you desire, you can grab some of the pieces and add some wonderful shapes, additional leaves and branches to your block. And I'm gonna pull up some of those leaves just to show you how quickly, if I want it, my block could have more than just two leaves. So you can play and do that. Save anything that you're cutting, any of your branches, save them in a nice bag, because you never know when you want to put a low bloom to the basket.
Great.
Once we have the pieces fused in place, it's time to secure them with a stitch and do what we loved most, quilt.
Right.
You have options of either blanket stitch, zigzag stitch with invisible thread, or maybe stitch right on the edges, staying 1/8 away with a straight stitch, give you the raw edge applique. Or you can go ahead and do what Erica loves to do, use the embroidery CD.
That's right, because this design is actually included with that embroidery CD that comes in the cube. So you're ready to go ahead and use that embroidery machine and let it do all the work for you.
And in the CD, you have the plain basket, I call it, just the basket. So it's perfect to try all different stitches, and there is a nice blanket stitch, embroidered stitch, a decorative stitch available for you. And also we have included the flower one in case you want to put a flower in every basket.
So you could do this whole quilt using that embroidery CD as well.
Once you have the baskets stitched around the edges, it's time to put your quilt together, and you're gonna lay out your blocks. And I have 5 blocks by 4 blocks. And I have to tell you, it was so hard to stop myself at 20 blocks. I want to do more and more and more of them. And I put them in a row. Once I place them into the row, I press my seam allowance in opposite direction between the rows, sew my rows together, and then went ahead and I used an overall quilting design of this quilt. Just a really nice daisy design, just mimic the low flowers, something nice and simple. And my baskets are stitched with a blanket stitch. Speaking of the basket and embroidered stitches, make sure you take advantage of the beautiful threads from Aurifil. I have this lovely box. This one has all different fun color, and I pulled out of this box all the colors that I have here, as well as the tone on tone are great for the bobbin as well quilting. Yes, and you have a color that will go with just about everything. And I like to see, like, give a little accent. Sometimes it stands out a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. You want to feel comfortable with it, and you want to add a little bit more oomph to your quilt.
Really fun.
Yeah. Notice my binding that I did for this quilt. You can use one binding, one color for the binding.
And the border?
Yes. But what I did is, because I cut some of my 6-inch squares from a layer cakes. Remember I told you there
Yes.
were little leftovers from a layer cake because layer cakes are 10-inch. So I used up the leftover,
So now we've got this
pieced them,
wonderful scrappy.
pieced them together,
Love it.
and got a little rainbow binding going around
Perfect.
it. I hope you enjoyed this one and you're ready for our next block.
Absolutely.